Hello and welcome to Archive West Texas. I'm your host, Gordon Wilkerson, joined today by our producer, Rachel Boyd. Our guests today are Dennis and Stacy Brown, two longtime Lubbock residents whose lives and businesses have touched thousands of people across our community. Dennis has operated C&D Moving in Lubbock for more than 50 years, and Stacy's owned Elegant Design since 1986, a company that provides floral and decorative services for weddings, businesses, individuals, and special events across Lubbock. We'll discuss their memories of growing up in Lubbock, the growth of their businesses in the city itself, and finally, some of the lessons they've learned while facing one of life's most difficult challenges. Dennis and Stacy, welcome to Archive West Texas.
Thank you.
Dennis, let's start with your early years. Were you born in Lubbock, and what do you remember about the city when you were growing up?
Well, I'm born and raised and loved every minute of it. And one memory that I have is that when we were young boys, I have two brothers. When we were young boys, we used to always play Army because my older brother always wanted to play Army. So we went down and we dug some holes on the north side of 50th, and we played Army there all the time because we lived 3 blocks on 47th. And on the other side of 50th Street, there was nothing but cotton fields, nothing. So that's what I remember from way back then is that, 50th Street, we've came a long way since then.
Yeah, we have. We have.
So that's one great memory I have.
What did your parents do, and what was your family like growing up?
My dad was kind of a jack of all trades. He moved furniture, and then he sold insurance, and then he sold cars. And he kind of did them in a repetition. And my granddad did kind of the same thing too. But my mom, she was just a housewife. She had 5 kids to take care of. So it was a wonderful time, and she took care of us good. Always kept us fed and let us go play a lot. So outdoors, not indoors.
Are there any particular businesses or landmarks or characters that you remember from your childhood?
Oh, gosh. Well, some of the things that I remember is like when they first built the mall. That was like a big deal for Lubbock. But I can't remember if the Loop was on the outside. I know it's on the outside, but if they already had it built or if they built the mall first, I can't remember. Probably the Loop first. Anyway, some other landmarks I remember are the old movie theaters. You know, the Lindsay, the Arnett Vincent,
Village Theater.
Yeah, Village, all those the different, theaters that we got to go to every once in a while. We didn't get to go very much because, we didn't have a lot of money with 5 kids. But anyway, we had a great time, and that's some landmarks I remember. And that's about all, I can think of right this second.
Now, you graduated from Coronado High School.
Coronado, 75.
Pretty new school at that time, right?
Yeah, it was built in 66.
Who were some of your favorite teachers?
Oh, gosh. My basketball coach, Jerry Hogue, I loved him. He was a great guy. And I had this English teacher. I can't remember her name right offhand, but she was very nice to me and gave me lots of slack.
Stacy, you're also a Lubbock native. Tell us a little bit about your family and your childhood here.
Well, I also grew up in Lubbock, and it's my hometown forever. And I started asking questions to my brother and sister. I have one brother and one sister. I'm the youngest of the 3. And my grandparents came in covered wagons. So my grandparents came to Lubbock, my great-great-grandparents. And so all of our family was here in Lubbock. And so I remember it positively.
So they came in covered wagons. Where'd they come from?
You know what? I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't know.
Not positive.
So I'm going to find out, though.
I think it's Oklahoma. Wasn't it?
Possibly. I don't know. But that really struck a chord that, you know how when you're younger, you don't really dig deep into these answers. And then all of a sudden, when you're old, no one's around to ask to confirm. You're like, oh, I wish I knew that. So
now your father, Joe Don Boyd, was one of the founders of Town and Country Airport.
Mm-hmm. He built Town and Country Airport, and it was on my grandparents' land. And I think sometimes the airports are getting mixed up and confused of where, who's what, but that was the Stewart land, my grandmother's, our parents and grandparents. And that was what it was, farmland originally, on South Quirt. And he built the first hangar out there and put the runway in, and I have all kinds of fun memories from out there.
So that's a general aviation airport. So what made your dad decide this is a good place for an airport?
Well, what made it a good place is that his family owned that land. And so they farmed that land, and there were all kinds of my grandmother Boyd and then my Aunt Frances, that was their family land. And so that's probably what determined the location. But he flew and crop dusted and farmed early on, and and then expanded that and loved airplanes. And so he did trick, he did the acrobatic shows and different things over the years. So, and I can remember that going up in a kid, as a kid in the airplane and him turning the airplane upside down and all those kinds of fun things. And
There you go. How'd the two of you meet?
well, our first date was water skiing. We loved to water ski, and a mutual friend that I'd had a date with actually introduced us. And then he invited me to go water skiing, and from there.
We talked about getting married and having kids and out there laying on the boat with our hands behind our head.
There we go.
We just were talking about life, and he got to marriage, and then here it was like 4 years later we got married when she turned 21.
Where did y'all water ski?
Buffalo. Oh no, it was Buffalo.
Buffalo,
It was
yeah,
Buffalo the
Buffalo.
first time. Yeah.
Buffalo Lakes.
Yeah, big old Buffalo.
All right. You got to share this story with our listeners. You told me a story about your wedding that involved Paul Bush, who was
Yes.
father-in-law of one of our earlier guests, Steve Moffat.
Yes.
Talk to our listeners. We talked about his collection of antique cars, and you've got a personal variation on that.
Yeah, well, that was so much fun when Dennis and I got married. So I was trying to think of things, and we were limited on our budget of what we could do. And so I wanted just something fun and exciting. And I'm really not sure how I came across, but he had all those cars in the window of, when you'd drive down 34th
Lubbock Electric,
Street,
yeah.
Lubbock Electric.
About 34th and L.
Yes. And so something sparked my mind to go ask. And I remember seeing just such fabulous cars and thought, wouldn't that be fun if we could go away in one of them? And so I remember sitting in the office quite some time that day. It was very busy. Did not know him at all. And just waited to ask, because you never know if you're going to get a yes if you don't ask. And so
Made you wait for a while?
I did wait for a while, and I asked if he would, let us go away in one of his beautiful cars. And so he did indeed say yes. And he showed up himself in a top hat, a tux. He didn't have the jacket on, but a bow tie and the whole works, and a top hat. And he himself drove us in an electric car. It looked like a little Cinderella carriage to me. And so that was quite exciting. And
I think it was a 1917 model electric car.
But he had all
It
kinds
had
of
one
cars.
stick that he pushed
uh-huh.
to make it go, I guess, and pull back, and it stopped.
And I suppose he had the capacity to charge that at Lubbock Electric. So-
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was he took us all the way from
Uh-huh.
First Christian, which is on Broadway, all the way out to 64th,
There you go.
and he dropped us off. It was great, man. People were looking at us like, I mean, they were amazed, like, where'd that car come from?
He's a great guy. He was wonderful, very thoughtful, and lots of fun.
When you think about the Lubbock that you grew up in, what do you miss the most?
Well, it's getting big now, so I'm kind of miss the calmness that it used to have, and the laid back atmosphere. It was just a lot more laid back than it is now. It's a real rush, hurry now, because we're getting so big. And one of my prayers is slow down a little bit. Let's just take it easy, because I love Lubbock, and I want it to not be a big metropolitan place, that's crazy everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's more cars at traffic lights now and all that stuff, but there's more people.
Yeah. It's also still a fairly small town feel about it.
Yeah.
Dennis, how did you first get into the moving business? You and I guess Curtis operated C&D
Yeah.
for nearly 50 years here now,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Over 50 years.
Over 50 years. Okay.
Well, like I said, my dad did 3 different things. And when I was a teenager, he was in the moving business. So that's what he took us out on the jobs with him when we were 13, 14, 15. And he taught us how to move furniture. And so that became kind of a installation in me. And then when I graduated from high school, we didn't have a whole lot of money, couldn't go to college because I didn't have money to go to college. So I just said, Curtis, let's just buy a truck and go move some furniture. That's what we know how to do. So that's what we did. And 50 years later, that's not what I intended to do the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But that's what God intended me to do.
So you started with one truck,
One truck,
2 guys.
2 guys, me and Curtis.
So how'd it grow? I mean, we see your trucks all over town. Where'd your business peak?
Well, what you have to do to make your business grow is just treat people right and love on them and all of that. And it just became, recommendations, and whoever we moved told somebody else that we moved them, and they told somebody. So it began to grow. And one of our mottos is your recommendation is our goal, so that's what we leaned on, and we just did hard work, and I mean, people recognized it and it just grew. I mean, and it's not growing as much now because of the situation, but I'm happy and everything's good.
We've touched a lot of lives, and when you're
Yeah,
moving
yeah.
people, you're stepping into major moments of their life. I mean, is it somebody's getting married, somebody's getting divorced, somebody's getting a new job, somebody's ending something or starting something.
Oh, yeah.
What have you learned about people through all those experiences?
Well, what I've learned is that moving is very traumatic, whether you're getting divorced or a death in the family, or you're just old and you have to move because you can't live there anymore. But it's just I've learned that you have to love on people, and you have to talk to people and make them know that you're there for them. And at the end of the job, I'll always pray with people and tell them thank you for giving me the opportunity to move you, and ask the Lord to bless their new home that you've provided them with. And when I leave, they usually have a smile on their face.
Yeah,
they're encouraged. So that's what I've learned is it's just how you treat people. I mean, you don't just go in there and just do the job and that's it. But you have to talk to them as you're moving them, and they'll tell you all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I've raised 5 kids here, and I've lived here for 48 years, and I mean, it's traumatic for that person to have to move.
Yeah,
there's too many memories there.
Okay, what are some of the biggest challenges you've ever had taking on a move, or what are some of the funniest things that have ever happened to you when you were moving somebody?
Well, one time, one of the challenges I guess that I had is years ago when we were real young, we went out on the job, and I got there, and it was this little small house kind of outside of town, and we knocked on the door, and nobody answered, and we knocked again. This guy came to the door, and he said, "Can I help you?" And we were like, "Yeah, we're here to move you." He said, "You ain't moving nothing." And we said, "Well, so and so called," and he said, "You're not taking nothing." And he pulled a gun on us and said, "Get out of here." So we were like, "Hey, somebody called and we're out of here, man. Just put that gun up. We're not here to do anything we're not supposed to." But one of the funniest things that ever happened to me, I was about 19 years old, and it was in the summertime. It was about 105 degrees, and we were on a job. And the back of our trucks get real hot because they're aluminum, and it's like an oven. So I was in there, and I was working, moving around, wrapping things. And this little boy, he was about 5 years old. He was at the back of the truck, and he was just watching me. And I was noticing him out of the corner of my eye. And he said, "Mister, can I get up there and sit on your pads and watch you work?" I said, "Sure you can." So I lifted him up and I set him on the pads. I got back up there and I began to work again. I was just dripping sweat. I mean, I was just, because it was so hot. And he kept looking around, and I noticed him out of the corner of my eye because he kept watching me. And I said, "Son," I said, what's wrong? What are you looking at?" And he said, "Mister, you're leaking." So the mind of a child,
Yeah.
I wasn't working, sweating.
Yeah.
I was dripping.
Leaking.
There you go. I was leaking. So that's a pretty funny story.
That is good.
And I'll never forget that. That's the first thing on my mind every time somebody asks me a question about humor on the move, because I thought that was so funny. And I still tell that story, don't I, Stacy?
Yes.
Stacy, you founded Elegant Designs in 1986.
Yes.
How did that business begin, and how has it grown?
Well, I've always just loved decorating, and I too did not really have the money to go to college. My parents divorced when I was a young girl, and so my mom always worked. And when she would come home I was what they call a latchkey kid. I walked home from school and let myself in and was home all day by myself. And so I loved to clean house and rearrange the furniture and just redo things. Well, I learned that when my mom walked in the door, she loved it. She loved it. And she just expressed how happy that made her. And I think that's really where the spark came, that, fluffing up a home can bring a lot of joy to people. And so that's really what sparked it for me, I think. And then when I got married, I began to just putter with things. I worked at Skybells at the time. And so as I was doing things in my own home, people began to ask. And so that started from there.
Weddings are emotional and memorable events. Just kind of like moving. You're catching people at really important times. What are some of your most memorable event stories.
My most memorable events, there's an event and then a wedding as well. My most memorable event that I just loved, and I love the way it really confirmed how God brought Dennis and I together, because God knew that I would need a strong man to move things around in my business. And so it has gone hand in hand. And so in 1997, I was asked to be the decorations chairman for Holiday Happening, which is a wonderful community event here at the Civic Center. And so that was a wonderful time for me. And it was the first time that the ceiling had ever been draped. I came up with that, and to just work with the gentleman to make that happen was a really special event. And then to see my sweet friend Kim Kirkpatrick, who was the chairman of the whole event, jump up and down off the floor out of excitement was really thrilling to me. To see when you work a whole year on paper and then to see it come together is just a beautiful thing. And to think that you're doing all that for the community, it was all a gift that you use the talent God gave you to serve your community. And so that was a wonderful thing. And then Dennis was extremely involved in that, because as we loaded stuff and drove around the loop to bring it to the Civic Center, we had to have that manpower to load and unload the truck. And then the other thing that was really special is with weddings, sometimes we've gone out of town, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Dallas area numerous times. But the one that we got asked that was quite intriguing was at Lake LBJ. And as I was trying to source the flowers from that area, I was having trouble. So I stayed right here in Lubbock and ordered from my Lubbock Wholesale Source, and those guys are incredible. And we rented a truck. We rented a refrigerated truck. So that was a whole brand new event for Dennis and I both. He had driven a truck, and you have to have a license to drive a truck like that. So I think that's so incredible that God knew that was coming our way. And so that was a big adventure for my whole family to load up and drive the flowers in a refrigerated truck to LBJ.
And the flowers made it.
And the flowers made it. And we did too.
Okay. Anything funny ever happened to you at a wedding? Anybody ever pull a gun on you?
No. But is kind of going along with Dennis. One of the funniest things that ever happened. I've had numerous funny things happen, but I did, after being at an event at the Civic Center, and my cards this was years and years ago, and I was in my 20s, and had my business card out there. Someone called me and wanted me to come to her house for some decorating things, and I did not know the person, and it was at Lake Ransom. So I drove out to Lake Ransom and went to the door, and when she opened the door, she greeted me and invited me in, and then immediately locked the door, took a key out of her pocket, and locked the door behind us I couldn't even concentrate on the job. I felt locked in. I could not wait to get out of that house, and I never saw her again. So that kind of goes along. Neither one of us intended to go on a unusual route as far as funny, but
at the time it wasn't very funny. But
yeah,
no,
now
it's okay.
Those are scary funny, but I have some
right.
funny, but anyway.
Yeah. Dennis, last year you had some difficult news come your way in the form of cancer diagnosis. First, thank you for being willing to talk about that openly with our listeners. When you first got that diagnosis, what was going through your mind? Shock.
It was just very traumatic. I mean, she was crying, and I was just like, it was like deer in a headlight, big old semi truck coming at you and you get hit. But I just said, it's okay. It's just, I'm not exempt from it. I never thought I'd get it. That's one thing I never dreamed I'd ever have, because I had two of these big blood tests done, and all my white cells and red cells and everything looked good. And I thought that was a sign of no cancer. If they checked your blood and there wasn't anything in there. But when this came up, I was just kind of shocked. It was kind of traumatic, but I just said, hey, that's bad news, but the good news is coming.
Serious illness can change a person's perspective pretty quickly. How's this experience changed the way you approach life?
Well, in life, I've always been full of joy. And I always say, nothing can steal my joy, because that's Jesus is my joy. So I just said, okay, well, we'll just see what happens next. And then we waited, and they sent off a biopsy and said it'll be back Monday. And I just told everybody, just pray that it comes back negative and that the doctor's wrong. But it came back positive. That was bad news again. But I just said the good news is coming. I just didn't really get that upset about it. And my wife was like, why don't you cry? Or there's no emotion there. And I said, well, I'm just listen to what they're telling me. And I mean, it's just what happens, So that's what I was thinking.
What
in
have
my
you
mind.
learned about yourself on this journey?
Well, like I said, nothing's going to steal my joy. I
Yeah.
mean, Satan can do whatever he wants to do, but he's not going to steal my joy. He's not going to depress me or get me into a place where I don't want to be, because that's not me.
What role has your faith and your family and your friends played?
No,
in
I
this?
mean, God is number one. I don't see how people go through these kind of things without God. I mean, it's just, I don't see how they do it. But I mean, God's first, and I couldn't do it without him. My family, they are phenomenal. They have taken care of me to the max. And friends, I mean, they have provided and done all kinds of stuff. God has provided through them for me. And like the song says, friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them, by Michael W. Smith. And that's a song that I love too, because I mean, long as you have friends, you're never alone. And there's a saying that goes with that too. You're never a failure if you have friends.
There you go. Stacy, when somebody you love faces a life-altering illness, the entire family has to work through it together. How has this whole experience affected you?
Well, I think joy is the theme of our home. We do have great joy, and look to that as Jesus overflows in you. It's JOY. Initially, I cried for 3 days and felt like I couldn't breathe and struggled and couldn't sleep. And I remember one night getting up in the middle of the night and just rocking and praying and talking to God. And finally, I stopped and listened to God and just let him speak to me. And one of the things I've always loved to share is that fear paralyzes, but faith energizes. And at that moment, I could feel a shift inside me, that God reminded me that he's with us everywhere, and he does not leave us or forsake us, and that we are to come to him and trust him with everything, with the good days and the bad days and everything in between. And to really, that old saying, live one day at a time, is so true. And also what came to me is to take every thought captive, because it was the thoughts of the future that gave me such fear, because instantly you think of death, and we all have a time and we all are going to die. But when you get diagnosed, all of a sudden it just feels like it's in front of your face, and that you want more time. And the thing is if we would just live one day at a time and look for every ounce of the beauty that God has for us, it's there. It really is there. And it reminded me, you've heard this saying, everyone's heard this saying, yesterday's the past, tomorrow's the future, but today's is a gift. And that's why it's called the present. Another little jingle that goes along with that is, while the past is fixed, the future is unknown, and today is a precious gift that we are to appreciate. And it's just such a reminder that today's a gift, and that we have to take every thought captive and just enjoy life. And when he said that, I said, why don't you cry? It wasn't that I wanted him to cry. I just had observed, as I had cried buckets of tears, that he had just stood firm and not really cried. And I think I wanted him to know it was okay to cry. As a man, and Dennis's physical strength has always been such a big part of who he was physically. But wow, his spiritual strength, his emotional strength, his mind, his mental strength is amazing. And so that's really, there's so much more beauty beyond outward, it's inward.
Right.
Have there been moments of unexpected grace or encouragement that you've experienced in this process?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just there again, the absolute beauty of the people that surround you, call you. I have a friend that texts me every single morning without fail. We had asked people to join us at 8 and 8 since day one, October 1st, to pray 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And without fail, I have one friend that's texted me every day at 8 p.m. in the evening. But just the grace of the love and the encouragement from other people. And that's God. That's God. And one of the things that came to me is someone told me that God has been preparing. She said, God has been preparing you, y'all, your whole family, for this moment for years. You didn't know it, but he's been preparing you. And it's so true, because I realized that he placed us in a church when we first got married. He placed us, he's poured into us, and the scriptures are built up and they come right at the right time. And That's God's grace and God's beauty and in the love of other people. Your sister is someone who called me. It was unexpected. I knew I'd talk to your sweet mama, but I didn't expect Sarah to call. And she called numerous times, texted. And that was grace and beauty of the body of Christ and believers loving one another. And when they've walked through pain, as you well know, and then they can reach out to other people, that is beauty. And God's mercies new every morning.
Also, too, you don't understand, or you can't believe the people that show up for you that you hadn't seen in a long time, that show up and do something very
Helpful,
loving, and they say, God put it on my heart. God told me to do it. So I say, well, if God told them to do it,
who might argue?
or put it on their heart to do it, and they do it, then that's great.
What would you all say to other families that are facing similar challenges?
I would say just never give up. Always be positive. Have a good attitude. Look to the Lord. Follow Him. One way or the other, whether it's healed here or healed there, that's a better place. But I want to stay here with my family as long as I can. And it's been 7 months since I've been diagnosed. So that's good.
That is good.
And I feel like it's going to be another 10 years, at least.
There you go.
Give me 10 more years to play with my grandbaby.
I would say you can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens you. And that's Philippians 4:13. And we can't do it in our strength. We have to lean into the Lord and just saturate yourself in His word, and literally one day at a time, and just look for all the beautiful joy, and keep I'm a journaler. Keep a journal, and just write every beautiful thing that God brings your way, every phone call, every smile in the grocery store, and just enjoy the moment, because really that's all. And I think that, this reminds you of that, but really that's how we're supposed to live anyway. It's just the beauty of each day.
Yeah. We're all here temporarily.
Right.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
And there is a better place.
That's true.
But we want to stay here with the ones we love.
Thank you all for coming
Yeah.
in and sharing your story with us. And thank you for taking time to share with our listeners. Really appreciate it. You guys have stories, memories, humor, perspective, longtime Lubbock people, deeply rooted in the community, touching lots of lives here. And thanks for talking about some of these difficult challenges and how you're facing those and how you're making your way through them as well. Well, thank you for listening today. I ask you to please join us again next week for another episode of Archive West Texas.